this is the sequel.
Yeah. It says we're live. Yes, we are back
Yeah,
live. Sorry, guys. The video is going to get split into two parts because I don't know, my connection just dropped to nothing.
it
But
happens.
I don't even know what were we just talking about.
We were talking about stocks.
Oh, yes, good.
Yeah.
um, what do you call it?
No, I don't remember even.
Well, I was just saying
We
that
were
I
talking about.
remember I was looking at my portfolio, saying things were okay.
I think.
And how's your week been?
Yeah, I was saying about my week that if you ignore the week we took USEG, I think this has been my best week so far, and by far my best week in terms of accuracy with my picks. Most of the picks this week, I think I've done 6 names, and most of them has been winners. I have 2 open positions right now, so I have to see how it turns out on those one. One is TPB, and the other one is MGNI, I think. So. Yeah,
This one looks
I'm
nice.
actually very happy with the start of February.
And on MGNI, was this the one you got in on day 2, or did you get on day 1?
This is the one I got in on day 2, so it's a bit of a different thinking and play for me. But I'm already up on it actually. From I took it end of day yesterday, but it went up a little bit after. Um, but it had some news, so it's all dependent on the news and if the market will continue to you know interpret that news positive. I'm ready for it to drop on Monday, but if it does, it's not a big deal. I just wanted to be in it if it goes further up.
Yeah, I saw it, but I had missed it on the first day.
Yeah,
Thursday, I wasn't really able to watch, so anything that started to move on Thursday, which sucks because it looked like Thursday was a pretty solid day. I didn't really get to get into things, so
I
um,
saw this one on Thursday, and it just um,
because I think
it it didn't break out properly for me enough. I think to jump into it, but maybe it's a mistake. Let's
what's
see.
what's Trivago's ticker?
Oh
TRV.
yeah, that
This was another one
oh,
too on
yeah,
Thursday. Totally missed it.
yeah,
Super obvious. This is, I mean, about as clean and clear as it gets.
yeah.
So, yeah, it kind of stinks. And that's why, I always hear like Christian and Mark and those guys, and they basically say they trade every day and don't miss a day. And this is kind of why, because and obviously it's not as easy as it sounds. Like if I was a millionaire and I could sit here at the computer and stare at these all day, sure. But
Yeah.
if you have a life outside of this, it's not as ideal as possible to be able to sit here and watch it. Um, so
I can
it is
barely
what it is. What was the other one you said? TBP?
TPB.
TPB.
Yeah,
Turning Point. Yeah, it looks
yeah.
pretty nice.
I think the entire sector has some momentum here right now. So I'm hoping, of course, this will turn out good. But this is my I hold it for 2 days already. So yeah, let's see. And my only loss this week has been KODK, Kodak or whatever the name is.
Oh, this is they make zigzags. All right.
Yeah, it's tobacco.
Sure it is. Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, Altria and some of these other companies, they've had pretty strong years. And I think it's because they're kind of shifting away from traditional cigarettes. It seems a lot of those companies to like all these different nicotine type products, and they also are buying other things. Like they're in other markets. And I don't know about in Europe, but I know in the States, like I still feel like it's only a matter of time before marijuana kind of becomes legal across the country.
Yeah, I think
So
we're a bit more far away here, but I'm not like Yeah, I don't know about this industry. To me, it seems like fewer and fewer people are smoking cigarettes and stuff like that, which is good, of course.
Right.
Um, but yeah, um, I I have seen this ticker also when we did the deep value style, and I think we've done it on the fundamental part before.
Yeah.
So it's a familiar name for me. I also have to mention, Dane, because I think I didn't mention it last week. I've sold completely. I'm talking about my long deep value plays now, because I have a couple of them left, but I've sold completely out of ECDA now, which was a small market cap play for me. I didn't like the recent updates that they have. They have been a bit late in some filings and stuff like that. I still think the business model can work out. I'm just it started to drop, and I got a bit scared that I would lose a lot of money there. So I took a 10% loss or something on it, and I just want to move on and see where it goes. I wrote this on Discord, but I don't think I mentioned it on the stream. Um, and two of my other long-term plays, which is SSRM and Mastercraft, has actually performed pretty good this week. And I have a double now on SSRM, so I'm very happy with that one.
Yeah, I just want to pull up ECDA because I know they were really small. This is one of Carriage's plays, right? This was the
Yeah,
restored the
but he
luxury
has been
vehicles.
silent for a long time now and then, so I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah, I think it was because I thought if I remember right, the focus was on how many vehicles they were going to be able to do
Yeah.
this year, and based on those numbers, it's going to kind of define where the company lands. Because as of now, if I remember right, it wasn't making cash just yet.
No, and you're right that they were gonna scale up the production, and if they could deliver on that, that would be like hugely beneficial for business. And it just seems coming across as a bit messy right now, and yeah, it started to drop a little bit too much for what I liked right now. So I just took the cash and protected the downside a bit. I'm still gonna watch it, but if you pulled up the chart, right, and it seems like nothing like we are doing now that we would be attracted by, you know.
No, but I mean, one thing that's important too is not to confuse styles.
Yeah,
If you're doing deep value investing, the chart basically the chart should look like shit.
yeah,
Like I mean, if you're deep value investing and I don't even know how you call it deep value. If the chart looks good, like you're late, you're late. You're not in the deep
yeah, you are
value
late.
section.
Yeah,
So it's kind of two extremes to be honest, and I actually like both extremes. And earlier in the week, I was telling you too, because one of the other, just to talk about some of my mistakes this week. It's always important to go over your mistakes. I made two mistakes this week that were outside of my rules, actual true mistakes. So I will definitely work on not doing those again. One was being I went into USEG and I chased it and it pulled back on one day. And then I ended up getting stopped out. I tried to get back in on the intraday chart and got stopped out again. So stupid me. It was I shouldn't have even attempted to do it. Um, and the other one was on last week. I was looking at Neptune assets and I was supposed to sell on Friday. I didn't. And then Monday it opened up way down and I got stopped out immediately. So that was a mistake. I should have followed my sell rules. And that was just me. That's just an error. USEG was me making dumb choices. And then
yeah,
after I got stopped out the first time, that should have been a sign that you're chasing and the strength's not there like you want. And I hopped back in, and I was actually up. I could have taken a gain, and of course, me holding it, it came right back down and got stopped out again. But like this is the problem. Like if you look at USEG's chart, and let's just zoom in here so it's not quite as hard to see all of it. Not that much. Holy smokes. On a 3 month here, this is still daily. This was the day that you and I got the big move, and then it pulled back, and then this was the day I got in, and I think my first buy was around like I don't know, like $3 or $3.20, and it moved up and then came right back down. I got stopped out, and then the next move it went all the way up to the 350s, and I'm thinking it's going to take off again, and then it pulled back, and instead of setting my stop loss or anything like that, I kept it at the minus 3%, and it pulled right back down, and I got stopped out again. So it was just kind of I afterwards was like, dude, just stop what you're doing. Don't chase it. You've already, and it's definitely FOMO. It was just me not making a good choice. So, I had already had this one worked out for me, and I saw it was up on that day. It was up like almost 50%. So
Yeah.
you just get that feeling that it could pop again. But the problem is that this is why I talk so much about supply and demand on this. Is you got to think there's a bunch of bag holders probably in here.
Yeah, probably.
So if it ended the day here, there's still bag holders all through here. The next day it sold right back off, and it kept moving down. So when it hits this kind of area, that's a lot of people who were in this region here all trying to get out, whether it's at break even or to get some kind of gain. So it loses a lot of strength, and that's why it creates that line of resistance right there. So I'm actually watching this one because this may be dumb. This will be probably one of the last things I try, but we're talking about deep value, which is why this reminded me of this. And I started looking into USEG just because I was curious about what was going on in the story. And actually, as a deep value play, I kind of like this story. So number one in the background, you and I were joking around because this was right when Trump said drill, baby, drill. And, U.S. energy takes off. So I've read a lot, and it sounds like mostly some of the larger oil companies would be the ones that benefit most from if Trump is truly, if we take this really pro stance on energy, which sounds like we will no matter what in this country. But U.S. Energy is a smaller one, and they're more on exploration and that side of the business. They're trying to find new wells and spots to drill. But the interesting thing I found, and it was in the Seeking Alpha article, is that they just bought a big chunk of land, and they're starting to drill for helium. Now, helium is really profitable business, and actually the well that they found is a really good well. So they acquired, get out of here, 164,000 acres in Montana. Helium scarcity and high demand, especially in sectors like semiconductors, present a lucrative opportunity with contracts exceeding 1,000 MCFs, or whatever the measurement is, micro cubic something. They have a debt-free balance sheet. They have significant helium reserves now, and the company plans to drill 4 to 5 wells and build a processing plant by the end of the year. And this was already funded by a recent $10 million equity raise. So they have no debt. It's already all paid for. They own it now, and they're building all these wells. The other thing that I thought was interesting after I had read this is they're saying competition in the helium have signed these contracts already worth the thousands. So you can assume that's about where they'll get their pay for. And the well that they produced is a process stream with a 1.5% helium content, which is well above the threshold that's typically considered viable at 0.5. So this is 3 times like where it seems like it would be worth doing. So it's already like a good area, and they have plenty of area, to cover to try and get some more of this helium. So on top of the whole it's the balance sheet's clean. They just bought this. It's already all paid for with new shares, essentially. So you're already past that share buy. And on top of that, I think the turnaround that could occur in the actual oil business, just from, I think energy is going to become a boon. I mean, Japan just signed yesterday with the United States to basically start building car companies here, and they're going to exchange and buy oil from us. So another bullish move in terms of energy for the U.S. And to further secure Japan as a better ally. Because it sounds like America's like 50-50 if we're trying to secure allies or get rid of them. I'm not really sure what we're doing at this point. But that we'll see what happens with that. But at the same point, I really like the article. I thought it seemed pretty interesting, and I can see, just based on the timing of stuff, that's why you can start to see some of this taking off. So I'm actually thinking of taking a position here. I'm trying to decide, because now that I know the chart so much better, like let's go back to the 1 year. So if I do a longer term hold, and the goal would still, it would have to be a multi-bagger. So this is the thing, I'm thinking of maybe taking on like a deep value position, and and it would be in this portfolio, so it'll just kind of sit in here, and I'd probably position it about the same size as I would one of my swing trades. But this would be a long hold, and if I do this, I'll probably only do it with maybe 1 or 2 companies at a time.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to take up too much of the portfolio, because swing trading's been very successful. So I don't want to like really step away from that. But I did have success with deep value, and I like deep value. I've always liked that style. So this is one of the ones that I'm thinking about maybe holding. If I can get in somewhere here, I wonder how far it could go down. If it gets down to this, like, I don't know if it'll hit this $2 mark. It's at 213. If it hits the $2 mark, I was thinking of getting in at 220, and I'm glad I didn't. I kind of like held off, and I was going back and forth. But there's definitely resistance and support probably around the $2 mark here. That's where the 50-day moving average is. That's where, you know, this line is here. So I might do it at the $2 mark and then use my old stop loss rule for deep value, which is 10% from there. Now, the only thing is I'm going back and forth too, because with this one, it got down to this range last time and started bouncing from here. And then that's when it had the big move up again. And this one here, just based on the volume of buying on this day, there's probably, I mean, there's a lot of people that bought on this day that must still be holding. So I'm wondering if this is going to, normally I see this kind of chart and I think the company's dead. Like, at the, you know, it's like a pump and dump type scheme. It goes up, comes right back down. But the only thing is this one actually has a true narrative change in the business. So this kind of goes back into my deep value. So if this one starts to cup and handle, you could see a really big move, and maybe it could actually stay and hold at the $6 mark. So my idea is if I got in at 2, potentially I would think this could be worth a 3-bagger. And if it breaks out again at the 6 mark and is able to break through there, it could be a 4-bagger. And if I can get a 4-bagger in the course of a year, which would be, you know, I mean, it would be 11 months from now or 10 months, somewhere around there. But that still averages out pretty well. So I might do this and just try it. And then in the future, maybe I'll just do 1 or 2 stocks a year or at a time, essentially, and look for kind of a multi-bagger type return. But this one was interesting to me. It's a small market cap, 74 million.
Yeah, it is small.
Yeah. So
this is a case where swing trading acted like a deep value screener then.
Yeah, I mean, in you know, I've already made a ton of money on USEG, so it's obviously it might not work out. But I'm thinking if I take it on a 10% position at a 1% or at a 10% stop loss, it's a 1% risk of the portfolio. So it's pretty low risk in my opinion.
I must say though, it sounds very good for them. What you went through there, that the balance sheet is so clean and no debt, and that the things are already financed. It sounds like this would be something to add to my tracker sheet if we were still doing this type of streams. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you know, I went through the comments and one of these guys like this random macro analyst, he's like, does this story hold up to common sense whatsoever? If this were this easy, why wouldn't everyone be doing the same thing? And I don't really know what that means, because they bought land and now they're drilling in it. Yeah, if everyone had hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars to go buy land and then strip it of its natural resources, sure, yes, everyone would do that. But they bought it and they found that there's the helium on there and they're drilling for it. So is it really all that different from drilling for natural gas or oil? You buy the land, you do the surveys, drill, connect, and a pipeline truck. Seems they failed at that, so what's your point? You just said if it was so easy, why doesn't everyone do it? And I pointed out essentially it's the same as natural gas drilling. And more to your point, I also identified another company doing the exact same thing, Helix. That said, I agree it's highly speculative and described as such. So same thing as always with deep value. It's not that this will work out. It's just that I'm under what Spanish Moss says. It's an interesting play.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it really is, and we have seen already, and also participated in this can move big quickly. So it's not the worst stock to be in if you protect your downside, I think, for a bit longer term. And yeah.
So I'm gonna kind of watch it, and then I don't know. I'm trying to think of. I wonder actually when's earnings for them. Whoops, can't spell.
It's a bit far away, I think. Earnings
or no, March.
in March, end of March.
Yeah, it's a month.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe I'll watch it and see if it just kind of bounces around here,
Yeah.
and then possibly take it. But this is the way I'm looking at it. For instance, if it could hit the $6 mark, that would be a 40% or a 30% gain for the portfolio. You know,
Yeah.
10%
Not bad.
as a triple
Yeah.
would be huge
It's
for the year. And if it doubles even from there, I mean, we're talking 60%. Now, I don't think that will happen, but I'm doing that with a 1% risk. So in my mind,
Yeah.
that's a pretty good risk reward ratio. And if I can get 60% with a 10% position, even if I have to hold it for the entire year,
Yeah.
that math works out in my mind. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. And speaking of multi-bagger, shout out to Value who has said to us that he has a 10 bagger on NotX now.
Look at this chart, $50.
Congratulations, Value.
Look at that, 569%.
Yeah.
Was it 6 months ago? Is that when we were watching this? Holy smokes. I remember he was talking about it back here at like 4 or 5.
Go to Value's YouTube channel. He has a video where he described his thesis, and that was way before this price.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, the crazy thing is it even topped out at almost 60. What was the... It opened at 60, so it literally hit 60.
Yeah.
And I think he said his fair valuation was in the low 60s. So, you know, if you've gotten to this point, man, that's a perfect value investment.
Yeah, for sure. Living up to his name.
Yeah, and he's even done the harder thing, which is bought on the way up, because he said his initial position is now a 10 bagger, but it wasn't his whole position. But still, I mean, you're strong. This is something that's always counterintuitive, is buying on the way up, because people always buy on the way down because they want to get their cost basis down and they're losing money. But that's like the exact opposite of what you should be doing. When the stock shows strength, you should be adding to it.
Yeah.
Now, I don't really do that in my swing trading strategy, but I do know, like Mark and some of those guys, they start with like if their position's going to be 10%, they'll start with like 2.5, and then they'll bump it up to 5, and then up to 10, you know, as it shows strength, and kind of keep funding their next investment to keep it risk-free. Now, maybe at their size, you know, they're investing hundreds of millions of dollars. So that's obviously a very different ball game than what you and I are doing. But something to think about.
Yeah, and I know I'm just checking Open Insider on NotX now, because I know that was a big, maybe not a big, but that was a part of Value's thesis, that they were buying for, you know, it was a big portion of their salaries went back into buying shares. But I saw now it's a while ago since the insiders were buying in NotX. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I think at this point, I mean, if they're good insiders, why would you be buying here?
No, I mean on the way up, like Value did.
Well, yeah, but I don't know. Well, do you know where he exactly bought it? I mean, he could have bought way back here too.
Yeah. Either way,
but I mean, crazy thing is, even on January 14th, this was worth $30, and it still doubled from there.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is a really strong stock, one of the strongest stocks in the market.
Looks like a very good chart too.
Yeah. I remember when he first brought it up to me, it was so speculative that I had a hard time even looking at it. So, but he had read through the reports and everything, and that's what gave him the bullish sentiment. So that's what Buffett's always said. You know, you can look at the numbers, but everyone peeks at numbers. Everyone, you know, has these different things they do, but it's the ones who really go in and read the 10Ks and 10Qs and understand the business. When it comes to value, which is probably actually, if I do take on USEG, I'll probably want to read through their few recent reports to get a better idea of the business itself and what the management's saying about it going forward, because I think it's super important in terms of those kind of businesses to understand that.
I think if we go through some of the You know, Mastercraft had the earnings the other day, and they beat the earnings. I'm still holding it. It's my smallest position, but it did drop on Friday.
What's Mastercraft's ticker?
MCFT.
Is it MCBC? Is that their actual name?
Yeah, this one, huh? It's that ticker, yeah.
Okay.
No,
I forget they're called that. I'm thinking
no,
they're
no.
just that their name's Mastercraft.
Yeah, but it is.
No, I know.
I don't.
Just with the MCBC, it just threw me off.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean. All right.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of a value play,
I think my thesis is still intact there. They've delivered now in the past earnings, and I'm hoping it will reach around $30 again. And I don't think that's impossible. They had some future guidance now for 25 that was a bit promising, and they did beat estimates this time. So, yeah, what do you think of the chart though, Dane?
I mean, in terms of swing trading, super choppy, so it's not really a
Yeah,
swing trade. But if this is a 3-year weekly chart, and you know it's been trending in this range here.
yeah.
If
I
it can break
did
above
see
this
that.
100-day moving average, I mean, you can see stuff starting to pick up now.
Yeah. I did see that Coliseum bought once more at the end of December for 3.5 million. So they are still in it and still very bullish, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Especially with how the year went, and based on the rest of, you were even saying that one of the guys who's short the whole industry specifically said Mastercraft is who he considers the bullish one of the entire industry.
Yeah, he said that they will also struggle, but he wouldn't dare to short them. So yeah, I'm still holding there, and I kind of like this new development, and I think it strengthened the long-term thesis there. But if it does go up to 30, I need to go back and check all the numbers again and um, see where we are.
Yeah, that's actually, I was curious to just look at the numbers real fast here.
The whole thing with this was they had some cash to survive, right? And everyone saw that the entire space was struggling. Um, but as long as they could survive and maybe position themselves a bit different, the thesis was that they would get some business back going again after the tough period, which is going to be now, I think.
Yeah, and even in a tough period, they're still doing all right.
Yeah,
Still
they
generating
did some.
cash.
They did do some strategic things management. They sold off some business and stuff like that. They narrowed down their focus, which I thought was good.
Yeah, and I like that they super clean balance sheet.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, I mean, this year's definitely been a struggle, but to actually still be making money.
yeah, it's
I
not
know,
bad.
I know, earnings wise it's negative, but it's barely negative. And historically, if you're looking, um, where's their earnings here? I mean, 7-year average earnings is $1.79, and it's at minus 40 cents right now. So yes, it's lower, but I mean they've only had one other year that was like that, and that was during COVID, which, I mean, you don't really count that year in terms of business.
Yeah,
And the other thing too is they're coming off 3 super strong years. So yeah, you're probably not going to see this level, but it could bounce back. I mean, take a break for a few years and then see how things go.
yeah. No, I think the thesis is intact, and I will just keep holding. But it is a small position for me. But it's just cool to see things play out a bit like you thought, you know.
Yeah. Um, and to be honest, I could still easily see this hit like $24-$25 pretty
Yeah,
easily. Even, I mean, I don't
yeah,
know if it'll quite get to the 30, right away, but I could see it bounce up to that range.
Yeah, no, I don't think it will happen quickly, but this is a longer term. I've held it for a long time already, just like I have with SSRM.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I still think I will keep those two for a while more, to be honest. But that's also why I sold out on ECDA, and things have changed here a bit towards the negative side, I think. But like I said earlier, I will still keep watching him.
Hmm. Yeah, and you know, it is starting to move above all the moving averages. The moving averages are starting to turn. The 100's starting to turn. The 200's starting to flatten. So that all looks bullish.
Yeah. And you have Coliseum, just keep pouring money into it.
Yeah, and I know they've been insiding for forever with it.
Yeah.
So
And a big part of my thinking about them being involved now is also, if you look at their history, they pretty much nailed it last time it went up to 30, and they took profits there, and then it pulled back and they bought back in again, you know. So they've been in this name before.
yeah,
Yeah, those were my a little bit of an update on the longer terms plays, because we have focused a lot on the swing trading naturally the last streams, but there has been some development, at least in the names I've been involved in the last let's say a month or so.
yeah. I mean, like you said, SSRM's been doing really well too. So
Yeah, and you checked the gold chart just before the stream, right? It looks good still.
yes, still looks good. I was just looking at the insiders as I actually haven't updated this in forever. So I was just seeing if there's anything that caught my eye.
Yeah.
See a lot going into energy.
PBF, is that Carlos Slim still buying?
I don't know who this is.
Probably him. Let me check it.
I was gonna say I don't even remember how I get to.
No, it is him. Another 4 million. Actually, another 5 million.
Quick 5 million.
No, it's even more, because he's just keep buying. He buys. This is a lot.
Sorry, I'm clicking all over the place here. Just a drop in the old bucket.
Yeah. He's averaging down, oh.
I haven't seen much from him in a while.
No. He's in another oil too. Is it Talo?
Which one?
TALO, I think he's in.
Oh, Tallow.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, he is. Doing the same stuff there. Just
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, like I said, I think the whole thing is interesting.
he has literally been buying all the way as it has declined. If you look a bit on the chart and zoom out, they are in a clear downtrend, both of them.
He aggressively buys on the way down.
Yeah. I'm not gonna go against him, I think.
Not with his track record, but he's pretty smart in his approach. I mean, he really uses just kind of like low book valuation levels, like really numbers that don't make any sense.
Yeah.
And he'll average down too. So he must start with a low size position on some of these names. Like I don't know what his actual change is, but he must do like 1% or something like that, and then slowly add 0.5% throughout a long time as he goes, because I've seen him average down for a while, and then a stock will like double or triple. So
Yeah.
he does well. But yeah, so just to throw a little bit of value back in,
Yeah. Always good. I 100% agree with you. Like I love both of these styles. I think I said to you, like I really like the swing trading style and how everything works there. It's a bit more quick, and yeah, just let's see how it turns out.
Yeah, right. And then just looking at the old watch list here. This is a name that I remember took off, and I can't remember if I caught this one or I tried and got stopped out, but somewhere in this massive move up. Oh, you know what it was? I was late because it's under $1. That's what it was. I remember I was surprised because I was like, how did I miss the name?
Yeah.
But I guess, I mean, not the most bullish chart because it has pulled back here. And it's, it's below 200 moving average. Those are all stuff I really don't like. It seems like a lot of the AI numbers or AI names were starting to recover.
Yeah, a bit at least. I
Did you
saw.
listen to that Lex Friedman podcast on AI with the?
No, I didn't.
They basically, after, don't get me wrong, DeepSeek is impressive in terms of the way it's designed, and there's a lot of innovation essentially in the way that they went about, which I'm sure the other tech companies will have to adapt and adjust to. But at the same time too, they basically talked about there's two different ways that AI is working, and essentially there's like a pre-training, and that's where you basically go through and you have it run through all these tests, and it spits out output, and it goes back and forth, and you keep like tweaking it, and that's really it's quite intensive to do that in terms of GPU processing power, as well as just cost. And then there's also too, like, teaching it to get better at afterwards when it basically is already pre-trained. So and then it basically takes an idea, it tries to run through approaches that it's used before, and then it reflects on the different approaches it's tried to come up with an even better, more innovative thing, almost like how human reasoning works, as opposed to just taking the data and trying, like, kind of like almost like hammer or nail, where you're just doing it over and over and over and it comes up with the best solution. This is more of like a more intelligent way of, like, if you're trying to figure out the best way to use a hammer, to a human, it's pretty obvious. You hold the hammer up, the hard metal spot's going to do the best damage to, and it's going to hit the nail best. Whereas otherwise the AI is hitting it with every part of the hammer trying to figure it out. The AI essentially is going to start to figure out, and more like a human would, like, oh, this spot's the best because of all these different reasons. And it basically jumps the process for it to give better information and reasoning and rationale. And that part is also intensive, but it's the more important part of AI. And they said that even though this DeepSeek has came out, DeepSeek did a lot of things to be innovative, but two big things on DeepSeek is, one is the cost isn't wrapped in the same way. So when you look, and people said that DeepSeek only cost them like $5 or $10 million to develop, whatever it was, that didn't wrap in all the extra costs that they put into the other ones. So yes, it was still way, way cheaper. Don't get me wrong, way cheaper, but not as cheap as they basically come out and acted like it was. So that's one thing in cost. And the other thing is, it took advantage of a lot of things that were already built and built off of those. So don't get me wrong, that's a smart approach, and other people are going to do the same thing. But in terms of real processing AI that's able to do that second part, where it's able to rationalize based on looking at information, as opposed to just doing the same task thousands of times to figure out the best method, that's going to be super GPU intensive. So the whole argument that Nvidia and all these big players who are putting all this money into stuff was a big waste of money and time. That's actually not going to be true. It sounds like, and these two guys were experts. I should quote their names since I'm not saying them and I don't remember exactly what their names were. But if you go to Lex Friedman's podcast, yes, it was Dylan Patel and Nathan Lambert. And they're specialized in semiconductors and CPUs and GPUs and the analysis of all that. So really, really interesting podcast. But my point being is this whole crash of AI because of DeepSeek coming out and kind of, don't get me wrong, it is a shock to the industry, and it does go to show you that there's going to be certain tasks, and especially like how you use ChatGPT right now, you're going to be able to do that in the same way. But for the future and the really big benefits that we're going to see from AI coming in the future, that part is not going to be able to be as cheap. That will be extremely labor and processing power intensive wise. So I think all these AI names are going to take off again.
Yeah.
It's a disruptor for sure. But in the long run, it doesn't really change anything. It's from what I took from it.
Yeah.
If you listened in the comments, please comment below because I would love to hear your opinion on what's going on.
It's also a bit interesting then because we talked about this week that 2025 has not exactly been like a bullish market for anything, I think. So we're still waiting a little bit on some sectors or some some spaces to really take off. Like we saw quantum computing did before at the end of 2024 and stuff like that. So yeah, it will be interesting to see which is the next one and when it will come.
Yeah, and I mean, really, if you think about it, I mean, we were almost at the same. We were at the same amount way back in October and November.
Yeah.
So we've been moving sideways now for three months, an entire quarter essentially.
Yeah.
So what that means in the long run, I don't know. And I think swing trading is going to work decently in a sideways moving market. There'll be times it pulls back and it's tough, but we've already talked about with our style, in terms of situational awareness, we don't really get into a lot of names unless they're showing pretty good strength. So I'm not going to hop into a name that's not showing strength. So in a market where everything's pulling back, I don't think there's going to be as many breakouts that I'm going to be as likely to get into.
Yeah, and I think the last 2 weeks we have also talked between us that especially in the opening 2 hours of the market, it's like, it's not a lot to look at today.
Yeah, and you can kind of follow just some of the major indicators like the NASDAQ and S&P and stuff, and you can get an idea if things are going to turn around as the day goes on. Like if those all of a sudden start to turn because something news-wise happens, then you'll start to see some names pop up, and that starts to be. But usually it's not till like the day after, the day even after that all of a sudden you'll start to see the breakouts occurring again. So when it does pull back, you just don't see as many names. There's not as much to get into. So I don't know. It kind of works itself out, to be honest. We'll have to see in a real bear market. Do you get a lot of the really false signals? I don't know yet because I haven't gone through one. Which the only thing that will kind of suck is if we do go through the bear market. I mean, I'll be happy at some point because it's going to turn around. But and at that point, I'll be ready and able to hop into a lot of these names hopefully and be nailing things left and right. But at the same time, the bear market's just going to kind of be a boring period. Just going to be just waiting for something to show up,
Yeah.
So
I saw a quote on X that fishermen, when it stormed, they focus on preparing the nets and the equipment, and they took parallels to trading. In bear markets, you should just do whatever, try to improve yourself.
Yeah, I think in a bear market, my goal would be to keep focusing on the watch list And I'll probably do a lot of back testing in terms of like, had I done this, how would this have worked over the last year in a good period? I'll be looking at the good periods and if I had done this during this period, how would it have been? Which I feel like I have a lot of that already ironed out. But at the same time, I mean, the thing is, the biggest I find is practice and reviewing your trades.
Yeah.
Those two are the best way to learn any of this. But it's also easier said than done.
Yeah. I guess also in a bear market, you could just cash in on all the profits and do a little bit of a YOLOing.
Yeah, always YOLO.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when I'll start going into the only names under 20 million that are up 100%.
Yeah.
I'll just start putting my whole portfolio in. Not financial advice.
We have said this 100 times, but you will never find financial advice on this channel.
You'll find really dumb things to do financially. We can promise one thing, that you will make huge mistakes if you follow us.
Yeah.
So do your own research, get a fiduciary. But
it's not cool to wake up and being down on the majority of your portfolio, 60%, just because you slept. That's not cool.
No bueno.
Which has happened.
Yeah, we've been there.
Yeah.
We've been there. It's a tough day.
Yeah.
But it's also, it's what led us to where we are now. So.
Yeah. It's part of the learning. I don't know. Which else tickers did we see? I saw you took IBEX, Dane.
Yeah, IBEX showed some strength.
Yeah, it did pull back in the beginning, right? But then I saw it just kept going a bit, and it has some pretty crazy volume. This came from my earnings beat, I think.
Yeah, I'm assuming my cost basis is somewhere in this $23 range. I don't remember exactly what I got in at, but was up in the morning, and I remember I was in a meeting, so I couldn't even do anything with this.
Yeah.
And then somewhere in here, I caught it. It was back down. I was probably in when it was up like 5% or 6%. So I'm probably only up like 4% or on it or something like that. But I mean, as you can see too, we talk about these charts. I mean, this to me looks like so clean. It's just got this consolidation. It has had strong moves. One thing I will say is it looks like when it has one of these breakouts, it doesn't hold up much. So we'll see what it does. But this is also really strong volume here.
Very good volume. And you see last time where it had that same volume in September, that was also on an earnings beat. So, and then it did pull back eventually. But if you hold for 3 days there, you have a gain.
Yeah, but we've now, and the other thing too is like we've had multiple earnings beats now.
Yeah, they are on a good run.
So,
but I saw also there's some news here saying that the insiders sold off some shares yesterday. What do you think about that in terms of this?
Well, because they're probably, who knows where they got their money. I mean, and these could have been like warrants and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm just saying, I take sales. Now, if they sell like all their shares, but like, if they're just selling like bits in that, like, I don't really care. Yeah, if I see an insider sell everything, like, then I'm like, okay, what's going on here? But but other than that, like, I don't really worry about selling as much. Don't get me wrong, I can see why it's bearish, but a lot of times I feel like these people it's part of their paycheck.
Yeah, and if you go to Open Insider, you see a long history of insiders selling in this stock. So I don't think it matters that much. This has still moved up, contrary to that.
Yeah, what did it do in after hours? Anything?
No, I can't see anything.
It was up 2%.
Okay.
So it's at 25 now, which puts us at actually the high from the day.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much volume that is on the after hours there, but I'll take it. It's, I mean, average volume is 140,000 shares, and there's 500,000 shares plus whatever in the after hours. So
Yeah.
I would think that's pretty good.
Another chart I'm looking a little bit on right now is Butterfly Network BFLY, and it's not that it's close to a breakout, but if it does break up above, you know, maybe 480, would you take this one then on some volume?
I think I did take this, I think on Tuesday, and it did pull back a lot. I didn't get much on it.
Yeah,
It was, I think I was up like maybe a percent or two.
yeah,
Because I actually was on this day, I got bullish on it. And I've been in BFLY on some of these. I believe I got in on this breakout here in November on BFLY, and that one was
yeah,
a good win for me. So, and I might have even done this one too, because BFLY is a name that I constantly kind of watch when I see it start to pop up.
yeah.
Um,
I have also been in it in the past.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, this is one of those names that like if it takes off, and I mean it's up to $1 billion now in market cap, but could it double from here? Yeah, easily. This isn't
Yeah, I
that big
think
yet.
so. Yeah. Uh,
Granted, I'm saying
I,
that I do not know the valuation of this company. So one thing, one thing I have to be very clear about too is when I'm doing something in terms of swing trading versus deep value. Deep value, I'm going to learn the business very well and learn the numbers and make sure that the valuations make sense, especially because I'm usually getting in at a low price. So there has to be some reason why I'm bullish even at that low price. Where swing trading, if it looks good, the chart looks good, the volume's there, and it's meeting some of my other criteria, I'm gonna buy. I might not even know what the company does because it doesn't matter at that point. It can be a buy for me. So
yeah,
just know that my two strategies are very, very different. So do not try
yeah,
and mix them. To be honest, the more I know about a company with swing trading, sometimes the worse it is because it starts to make
yeah.
me think like, oh, I don't really like this story, or I do really like this story. And to be honest, it's not about that. It's about what the market's telling you, and it's about the supply and demand side of it. So
Yeah.
a lot of times with swing trading, purposefully, I don't dig into things too much. I might check real quick to see if a narrative's changed or if earnings came out, something like that. But to really dig in deep, I almost find it's a negative. So I don't usually do that.
I agree with that. It can quickly turn out to those things that we were saying while doing the deep value stuff, that stay away from this because this will fall down quickly again. And a lot of time the swing trade, the stocks that we are in, that we even make money on, they do break down and they do pull back. So
Yes.
it's just because we have such some shorter time horizon on this that we it's quickly in and out.
Right. And the other thing too, I mean, this is kind of why with value investing, it's the exact opposite. Usually, I want the chart to look as terrible as it possibly can because if it looks pretty good, it's probably not that much of a value.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like you kind of want something where it just looks like it's gonna die because those are the ones that when something turns, and that's why it's important in that style to, you almost want to screen by ugliest, which we always joke around. We used to look for 52-week lows constantly. And that's where
yeah,
we would kind of like be looking because somewhere around there is where you can get some of these things that can bounce back if they don't continue to break down. And
yeah. And then you go and check the depth, how they plan to pay it off, all that stuff, and
yeah,
hope for a
Yeah,
turnaround.
it becomes all about credit risk, how much their time horizon is, and what's their plan on turning things around. I mean, that's all about what deep value vesting is about.
Yeah,
Where swing trading is about like who is the leader, who has got the momentum. I don't care if the story's bullshit. Who is everyone voting and believing on it? I mean, it's two exact opposite spectrums of the thing. So you really have to keep them separated.
yeah.
So another
And
another reason why if you are listening to this, even though you see our advice, like just be really careful to know that like we're doing different styles. Now I haven't been value investing for a little bit, but if I do take on USEG, I will approach it with that old style versus what I'm doing with swing trading. It's not the same
yeah,
thing.
and we have to try to be very clear about which style we are referring to when we speak to, which I think at least today we have been I think we normally are, but it's important to, if someone jumps in midstream or something, to understand that maybe we switch uh, our lens is a bit talking about stuff, you know.
Right.
Another chart I saw this week was ULCC. What do you think of this candle it made on Friday, Dane?
I've liked ULCC and I haven't been able to ever get into it.
Yeah.
I believe back here at the start of the year, I saw this move, and I don't remember if I bought and got stopped out, but I wasn't able to get this one. So this is another one too. It was kind of up, and it was strange to me that it just held here. So
Yeah, I agree.
was there news on this?
It was an earnings beat.
Just the earnings beat, but it just held there, huh?
Yeah. And it
Makes me
says
wonder.
like,
I mean, this has gone up for a while. Is this could be bearish in terms of like?
That's what I was thinking a bit, that it didn't move. It had a ton of volume, but this, well, it did gap up, you know, but after that it just didn't move too much.
Yeah, I'm trying to think how
Really
to
flat.
interpret that it gapped up, which was probably a big chunk of the volume.
Yeah.
Actually, what I want to do is
It got to the 1 minute or something.
yeah. So this is one thing I love about stock charts is it shows you the outside hours.
Yeah.
So in the morning, there wasn't that much volume actually. The price
There's
shot
some
up, and this is all small buys from people pre-hours.
There are some good volume at the very end too.
Yeah, there's a little bit of selling at the end of the day, but actually most of the volume was in here. So I would think it held up pretty well.
Yeah. But what that means for the future, it's a bit tricky, I think. And I can't see this stock historically gapping up so much that it did this time.
Yeah, I mean the only thing is when I look at the actual the daily chart, I mean, a lot of these, this one worked. This didn't really break out, and even in this move up, every time it actually seems to break out, it fails a lot, it pulls back a lot, it doesn't make really big strong moves. It gapped up here and then moves sideways. It moves up and kind of breaks out and then pulls back. So, not really a great swing trading like looking chart to me.
No.
Like when I want to see something that's like a good one, like I mean, I know we're talking about BBAI. Nah, they're choppy too. I guess ARC maybe. ARC was a little bit more. Yeah, it's. Can I do 2 years here? It's still hard to see here, but I'm looking for these ones where it makes some of these big moves in a single day period. Some of these really heavy volume days.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the Qualamaji used to talk about like a 5-star setup for me. Like a 5-star setup for me is like this really heavy volume on a breakout. Essentially no resistance. Especially this is a 52-week high break, and everything on the chart's kind of moving up. It's already had a pre-move. Sure, this one did slowly move up, so it's kind of like a I don't know what they call it, a rising triangle or some shit. But you get my point. So I more, like I say, I always care more about the actual move, but still. You kind of need those volume days. And then when I see these green volumes kind of way out in no man's land, that's usually not a great signal.
If you look at ULCC on a weekly chart, though, does that change anything?
This is 3-year weekly, so
Yeah.
I mean I would say it's bullish bi-weekly.
Yeah, I agree.
That's monthly. This is the 1-year weekly, so
yeah.
I mean,
It doesn't look too bad
just
there.
starting now, and it's just catching up to its 200 week moving average.
Yeah. Yeah, it's on the list, but I couldn't get into it yesterday.
Yeah, I saw it as well, and I didn't see an opportunity to get in. I was waiting to see if it would pull back,
Yeah,
and it
same.
just never did. I think around here, it was almost in the range, and I don't remember if I was watching it right here perfectly or not. I might have just missed this big dip here, but it never was pulled back. It was just up a lot at one point, so it was tough to get into it.
Yeah. Another one I think I talked about with you was SEMR.
Yeah, I mean the only problem is with SEMR. I mean this was another one on Thursday.
Yeah.
But I would say it's 2 days of solid volume. This day it didn't move all that much, so but
No,
it
not
is
a lot.
approaching all-time highs now, which means that might have been the guy's bag holding here, or from the day before. So I would think this looks bullish for tomorrow or
Yeah.
Monday.
And since
Didn't do anything after, but
what is it? Yeah, middle of January, it's up. What is it? 40%, around 40%.
yeah, I mean this one just in general is a pretty choppy chart. You know, like it can go up and then pulls all the way back down. So and it's
Yeah.
been moving sideways. I mean, really for most of the
Bit
past year.
bit steep on the market cap size, 2.64 billion.
Yeah, now it is, which is
Yeah.
this is why I said, once I start to approach 3 billion, that's
Yeah.
where I start to hesitate to get in because of size. Just you're not going to see as big returns, and even here, I mean, you think about it, this you get in at 17-ish, almost $18, and now it's ended at 18. You're not getting huge returns on this, and if you're going to take on a risk reward ratio where you're shooting for 3 to 1, you kind of have to accept that in this size company, getting 3 to 1 starts to become much more difficult.
Yeah.
You're going to start to maybe shoot for 2 to 1s on market caps over a couple billion.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you can't get a 10 or 15% return, 20% even on some of these names, but it starts to become less common. I mean, Nvidia is a good example of you can break that rule, but it's much more the exception, not the norm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking
What else?
of
What else is?
sorry.
I was just looking at my other names I got into just to kind of bring the charts up.
Yeah.
Talk was another one I thought looked pretty good here. It's had a few day move ups, but I've said that a few times now. I know that was one of Pradeep's rules, but I find if it reaches a clear breakout level, just because it's moved up a few days in a row, that doesn't tell me not to buy it.
Yeah.
So I like it here. It hasn't quite reached the high from this 392, but it's been a long time and it's sold off for this whole period. So that's kind of why it doesn't really bother me that we're not quite broken out from this level of resistance. It was more this one.
Yeah. Can you argue it's a cup and handle pattern from April 24?
Yeah, to be honest, I see exactly what you're saying.
And
It
in
looks
that
pretty
case,
looks
this
pretty
looks
good on
good.
that idea.
Yeah.
Another one is Easy Corp. Some really strong volume, and it's pushing to new highs. So I like this one. Not as clean of a chart, but had moved up and then pulled back and was just kind of moving sideways.
Yeah.
I guess kind of a cup and handle here
A bit.
from August and September-ish.
Yeah. So some massive volume the 3 last days.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That was one of the things that it wasn't up a ton, but it kind of gave me a little bit more confidence to go in.
Yeah.
And then DSP, it's I was arguing that this was a new breakout on this day versus some of these. It's been moving up slowly. I might be too late in this one, but some of the names it's tough to really say it's broken out. But I don't know. There's just been some strong volume coming in, and we're past resistance now. So this was the other name that I liked. But
Maybe
we
we
are
should
coming
talk
off
a
already
little
a
bit.
big move.
Yeah. You want to talk a little bit about OPFI, because that's an interesting chart.
Yeah, OpFi, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, another one that I have just recently sold out of. I had swung trade this week.
Yeah.
I believe off Monday or Tuesday, whatever that day would have been.
I think both of us were in this one this week, and it was good for me too.
Yeah, and I mean, don't get me wrong, it hasn't made the biggest move, but I've been in and out of this name a few times, so it's just one of those names, strong stock. Really, I mean, there's a lot of volume in here. I mean, this is a lot of buying.
Yeah.
So, I
If
thought
you
this one
took
looks
it,
good. Moving averages are all, I mean, in perfect alignment.
yeah.
So, I will say though, there was a bit of a pullback on Friday here. So, starts to hopefully we'll find some consolidation here before it makes another move. I'd like to see more consolidation and not these ones that slowly trickle up like this. It kind of sucks because it's not great for swing trading.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit tricky, right? Especially when we have sold out now. I want to see like a clear pattern, I think, before moving into it again.
Yeah, and it's at 1.5 billion, so it still has room to move, from what I can tell. But it's also been on the way up for, you know, two-thirds of a year. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, overall, I thought the week some days showed some strength, other days didn't. Friday, started off okay, and then all day it just kept going down. But there was still some breakouts going on Friday, so
Yeah.
sometimes I find that bullish in terms of the market starts to pull back on a day, but there's a few stocks that seem to continue to kind of break that mold and continue to break out in the face of the whole market's pulling back.
Yeah.
So gives me a
One
little more
on.
credence. That's why I actually took on. I think I bought, like I said, 3 or 4 positions on Friday.
Yeah.
One thing I brought up or wanted to bring up to you is BCRX. I had bought this on must have been Wednesday, and it had kind of moved up here and then pulled back, and now it's moved sideways for 2 days.
Yeah.
I didn't sell this one, even though technically it's past the 3rd day I bought it, but I would argue that actually it didn't break out until this day.
Yeah.
So I actually didn't want to sell here, and the moving averages are really turning up here. And it was even though it was technically a down day, it was really low volume in comparison. It wasn't strong volume. So we'll see if it's able to break out from here. But I thought it looked good, like it could go one more day. So this is kind of the thing where Qualamaji and them say 3 to 5 days they hold something.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes the reason you say that is I still think 3 days seems to be the best risk reward ratio that I found. But sometimes it doesn't quite, like, it's tough to argue where this actually breaks out. Like technically at 888, it still hasn't even broken above that. And I don't really care. I don't really care about the lines there. I guess I would more look at the closes, which it's above any of the previous closes highs. But it just makes me think that this isn't really quite broken out yet. And I might even hold this if, like, for instance, on Monday, if this one starts to break up and goes up like 5% from here, I might hold it because then I might consider that the start of the actual breakout and hold 3 days from that point.
Yeah.
So just something I'm thinking. This is kind of bending my rule, but at the same time too, we'll see what it does. And this is one of the things that it's kind of hard, and there might not be a right answer here because sometimes it might work out, sometimes it might not. So
Yeah.
just kind of a tough one. It just moved. I thought the consolidation looked right here. It had moved sideways for a long time, and now we had some strong days pushing it out.
Yeah. And the earnings according to TradingView is 19th of February, so that's soon. So maybe we'll see a spike up towards going into the earnings.
Yeah, and I would be out of it by then anyways.
Before that, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so
yeah, what
we'll
do you
see.
think
And,
about another one I have on the list currently is KLTR. I think we pulled it up last weekend, but there has been some development on it this week.
Yeah, and it looks like it's forming what could be a nice cup and handle.
Yeah, and if you get a clear breakout here, I think I will take it, because then we are in a little bit of a new territory for it in a long time at least.
Yeah, I was just gonna look at the longer chart. I mean, so this isn't that old of a company, but since its pullback, it's bounced at the first bottom and then it's gotten to this range. So if we do break out from here, I mean, really, I feel like when I look at this chart from before, like, see where this 20 moving average starts? Kind
Yeah,
of before this, you could almost kind of eliminate it.
yeah,
Like,
I agree.
you can
Like,
just, you don't even have to really look past this, like, June, July area. You
yeah,
can kind of start tracking it here because this is just the initial sell off from it IPOing obviously
the
higher than it
IPO.
should have.
Yeah. So
Um,
in that regard, we are getting close to all-time highs.
correct. And that's sometimes that's why I tend to look at more like a 52-week high or sometimes a 2-year high, because
Yeah,
when you start to go back past that, stuff changes so much past 2 years. Businesses change, the world changes, market conditions. So it starts to become kind of like irrelevant data. I'm not saying it's irrelevant totally, but in a way, it starts to matter less.
yeah,
And to be honest, part of the big reason it matters less is because of true, like we were talking about, supply and demand. Like those people aren't holding from that long ago. Very few. There's institutions, but they're not going to move all that much.
no. Worth to mention is also that they're gonna have earnings 20 of February, which is soon. But again, if you follow the rules that we do with the 3 days holding period, and this breaks out on Monday, I'm gonna jump in on it. I think it depends a bit on the volume and news and stuff like that, but I will be out well before earnings, anyways.
Yeah, I mean you can go right into earnings.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm not sure if we have mentioned why they on the stream why we don't want to hold through our earnings period, but it can get a bit messy there, right?
Yeah, well, okay, this is one thing I was just going to pull up on Cultura. So, I mean, if you look at the intraday chart, you can see number one, it's pretty choppy, and number two, um, it doesn't have a ton of volume. It's not super liquid. Like there's
Yeah,
time periods here where the stock price can jump up and down, and like when one big order comes in, like this is one order or probably maybe just a couple people, but they bought like 30,000 shares here, and that makes up a big chunk of the day's volume. So even though sometimes you look at these and you're like, oh, it had pretty good volume, well, when you look back, there wasn't actually that much going on all day. I mean, there was, you could argue there was like maybe 15 big buys and like a few periods of sell-offs, and how much
yeah,
it moves up and down on that, how much these moves, you can see what the spread is, the buy-ask spread. So it's kind of all over the place. So like, part of me, I was looking at this and I saw this chart here just on Yahoo, and saw it's down 3% in after hours. This could be someone sold 100 shares. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
you don't know. So like that 3%, it doesn't mean anything to me. But more importantly, when I look at this one can be pretty choppy. So
yeah,
just something to think about when you get in and you're looking at this chart, because this chart doesn't show it as well. But on a day like this where there's 400,000 volume, and like I said, that could be just like 10 buys. It doesn't really show all that much. So when it does go to breakout, I think it's really important to find a day where you see pretty solid volume.
volume. Yeah,
And,
I
and
agree.
sometimes too, it's the acceleration of the volume almost. Like in the
Yeah,
morning, if it's already approaching like a 1 day average of volume, like that's really big for me because it's
yeah,
showing that volume quick and early, which means there's a lot of interest in it. If it's by the end of day it's reached those numbers, that doesn't mean as much.
no, no, I agree with that. And I see that often, that you get these strong buys in the morning or in the opening. I was going to ask you though. On my charts, I have this some statistics, and one of them is average dollar volume, and I know Kulamagi talks about that a lot. Is that something you use, or do you just look at the volume?
Um, More I take a mental note of it. I don't actually calculate the number. But, you know, I know stock price is almost $3, you know, 400,000 shares. So you can quickly be in your head like, okay, like $1.5 million was moved here. Which then I start to look at the market cap, like, okay, 1.5 million of this market cap's kind of nothing. Now, on a day where something can move like this, like somewhere in here, over 2 million shares were moved. So, you know, that starts to be like a $6 million move during a day. So I know Pradeep and him have talked about $9 million being kind of the sweet spot that they look for. And that's also from some of their older videos. So, you know, with inflation and whatnot, you could probably argue somewhere around $11 million now is kind of like the daily average volume you want to see. So I kind of like just quick mentally in my head will pay attention to that. Like if I see a stock that's $1 and it's only moved 100,000 shares, I'm like, okay, it's only moved 100,000. You know what I mean? Like it's not that big of a deal. And then I always compare it to market cap. You know, like if it's $100,000 and the market cap's 50 million, oh, well, okay, that's a decent move. You know, it's not much, but it's still better than if it's 400 million. You know, if it's 400 million and I see a few $1 million moving, okay, that starts to mean something. You know, when the market cap's $1 billion, like I better see, you know, like $30 million moving or $50 million moving. You know, it's always just like kind of like a ratio comparing in my mind.
Yeah. No, I agree. This KLTR, it needs to break out on some like some attention grabbing volume, I think.
Yeah, and one thing I will say in terms of Pradeep and Qualamaji too is, once again, remember they're talking about moving, you know, when they go to buy a position, it could be a couple $100,000 easily to $1 million. So because of that, their numbers are going to start to become constricted. They can set pretty strong numbers in place because they're dealing with a lot smaller group of companies. They have to start to scale into bigger companies. They can't look at the really small stuff. If they do, they can't take super large position sizes. So, you know, I feel like when you get to that point, if you have to take super small position sizes, you're going to stop. You're not going to get your reward and return. It's not going to be as big and grateful like as it just becomes less important. It's like Buffett investing in small companies. Like even if a company like tripled for him and he could only have invested like $50 million, like a triple for him at some of those small numbers doesn't mean much. He has to look at the top, you know, 300 companies in the world to even make money on them. You know, that will actually like affect, you know, it's not a rounding error for him. So same when it comes to like Pradeep and them, like, you know, if they might not be looking at companies, maybe at $400 million, they can look at this. But like I said, if you have to put $500,000 into something for it to become like a small, like a decent position for you, well, looking at a company even here at 400 million, you're going to be almost the entire day's volume.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, does it mean as much? I don't know. I don't know if it benefits you as much in those situations. Because you're going to be the one pushing the price. I mean, you're going to be the whole move.
Yeah.
So they can start to set like a solid volume dollar average at 9 million and being like, I'm not going under that, because literally for them it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
You know.
We also saw that talking about like big moves and stuff like that, things that drag other things with them. Amazon was having a bad day on Friday, and I think that affected the entire market. It went down 4% on some. What was it again? It was some poor outlook on their AI stuff or something like that.
Yeah, it sounds like they were going to invest like I don't know, like $100 billion or something, or $10 billion, whatever it was, into their AI. But I think the bigger concern is they're kind of behind on it.
Yeah.
And, you know, people are, this is why we were talking about DeepSeek earlier, is people are wondering, is that investment worth it? Are they going to see a benefit from that? But the one thing I'll say about Amazon, and this is something Jeff Bezos has always done, is they kind of are like, let's throw our money into it now and we'll worry about making it profitable later. Like they come up with an idea, they come up with a service or a need that's something that people will want. And at first, it might not be optimized where it's going to make the company a ton of money, but as it scales and as everyone starts to adapt it into the Amazon universe, it all of a sudden becomes super beneficial. You got to think Amazon, in terms of everything that they're doing, if any of their AI service can improve on anything and save cost savings, that can improve Amazon's outlook in so many different ways. Like, imagine if Amazon was able to, through AI, save 10 cents on every package that they move. 10 cents on every package they move would be a massive, massive gain for them. You know what I mean? Like billions of dollars that they're gonna make off that. So there's a lot of opportunity, I find, with Amazon to profit, even if just them throwing $100 billion into AI. It might not pan out in the way that you initially would think it would, but they have so many opportunities to utilize it and actually in the long run make money from it. So I don't know. And then you said revenues were down or earnings were down, right?
No, they were beating on the earnings, but it was the forecast of. Let me check here. I also saw that some analyst has raised the price target recently, so I don't think it's too much of a worry. Not that that matters a lot, but drops as cloud growth slows, it says. Amazon shares slipped 3.3 in pre-market trading after AWS revenue came in just below expectations.
Yeah, and
Fueling concerns over big tech's AI investments.
gotcha.
So yeah.
Because I know one of the complaints about AWS is it's kind of not the best cloud service. Like it's kind of clunky and people have problems with it. But the fact is everyone has it, so it's more of like a pain in the ass to actually switch away from it than it is. So that's why everyone's kind of adapted it. So that's another thing too. If AI can make the whole process smoother and make AWS work better, that kind of benefits everybody who's already using AWS and further secures that they're going to continue to be the #1 in cloud. Because they were saying Microsoft and Google are second and third, I think, for cloud software, but AWS is like massive compared to the other two. Even though those are second and third, they're not even close to how big AWS is. Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, like Amazon's obviously, not something I'm really looking at. It's way too big for me and not really my style. But interesting to think about in the broader scheme of things. And it's the kind of thing, like you said, it can affect the whole market. Nvidia goes down, the whole market goes down. So it's like you have to pay attention to them, even in our style.
Yeah. And if we go a bit further on that into another space, like the crypto space has also taken a hit over the last week. So and we have talked about like the last couple of weeks, we have seen a lot of red days in the market. It's not like a proper bear market, but it's pretty flat and a lot of these big movers, Nvidia too has struggled a little bit lately. So I'm just keeping it in mind.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, in terms of Bitcoin, like, it's still, to me, I mean, if we're just talking in swing trading, I mean, there was this consolidation period here, and then it broke out from like 60-some thousand up into this $100,000 range, and now we've just been moving sideways. I don't see why it won't move sideways for a while here. Yeah. Crypto is one of those things too. I think the whole reason it jumped in this last move up is because Trump sounded pretty bullish on it before he came in, and I feel like since he's came in, he hasn't done too much with it.
No.
Now
he
who
made
knows?
a lot
That
of
might
money on
change.
Trump coin.
Yeah, who knows? Anything could change. Could change on Monday. I could be very wrong on that. But my point being is like, it's going to kind of depend on the narrative here, like where we're going to go. Like, does he actually adopt it into anything? And if not, you'll probably slowly see it begin to trail off. The one thing I'll say about Bitcoin though is when everything's down, Bitcoin's down. It trends with the market very well. I mean, yeah, it just almost maps to, if the S&P is down 1%, this is down 3%, and it's kind of almost a little bit more extreme always than what the indexes are doing.
Yeah.
But it does have the more grand narrative of more cryptocurrency. So, I mean, you can see here. Look at the volume.
If you go to the if you go to stock charts, Dane, and pull up Bitcoin, and I see it on the other cryptos as well. What happened there on the 3rd of February? Do you know that?
Oops.
Because it has a pretty steep spike down.
How do I just do Bitcoin USD on here?
In mine, it's like a BTC USD.
Yeah, it's something like that. This is doing grayscale though. I don't want that. Do I have to put a $sign for both? Sorry, I don't usually do it. So,
Yeah.
You know what? Actually, in my dash, I should have it. Oh my gosh! Come on. Sorry, I think I need to reset my computer. It's like moving slow, it seems.
Yeah.
Here's Bitcoin, okay. Oh, there's no dash. $sign BTC to USD. My bad. I'm an idiot, so don't just ignore me here. But so what day were you talking?
In my chart, it's 3rd of February, Monday.
Here, let me zoom down to like a month here.
Yeah, there.
The 3rd of February, that was Monday?
Yeah, that's the one
was
with the big volume.
remember that day started off. That was a super bearish day. That was they were worried about the tariffs.
Oh, true. Yeah.
The tariffs. So that was the thing is, and you know, there's been that argument, and trust me, being in America, you have to hear it nonstop. And you know, the left is convinced that Trump's going to run the economy into the ground because he's going to put these tariffs in, and that's all going to fall back on the American consumers. Where on the right, they say the tariffs are going to be used as more like bargaining chips. And to be honest, so far it's kind of worked in Trump's favor because very quickly both Canada and Mexico wanted to work with the United States and come to some kind of agreement so the tariffs don't actually impact. Now, it goes both ways because it's kind of a losing war if they disagree with Trump. Now, the big issue and the one thing that Trump has, in my opinion, is that he's got the bigger nation in terms of that, like, it's going to hurt their economies worse than it would hurt the United States. It's bad overall, no matter how you look at it, though, economically, because it's a losing war to put the tariffs in place. But if he's able to get like Mexico to help secure the border, that's what they're arguing is his whole goal. If he's able to do that, well, then he's done it successfully, and the tariffs don't matter. So I think the problem is on Monday you saw that the tariffs were going to get put in place, then all of a sudden they disappeared, and you saw the market recover. And I don't know, it's kind of just been moving sideways now because I feel like at this point no one really knows what's going to happen. I don't think Trump even knows what's going to happen. You know, I think it's kind of day by day here.
Yeah.
So we'll see. You know, Trump's style is to kind of shoot from the hip, and you know, sometimes it works and other times it doesn't. So we'll see going forward what happens. But yeah, when I see a day like that, it's usually something on that day that, you know, mess with the markets. And you can see it bounced back too. I mean, look, it started, dropped all day, and then came all the way back up and actually got all the way up to the 20 moving average here.
Yeah, and great volume. I just saw XRP and the other ones also fell drastically, even further than Bitcoin on the same thing.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is I feel like the further away you get from Bitcoin, the even less stable other crypto coins are.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, XRP is still a big crypto, so it's not like it's like one of the random ones. But
remember we went through the list how much value they have on like the number
even like the
coin.
10,000th crypto coin has like over $1 million in value, and I'm like, what? Like, it's insane.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know. That could be one person who funded it, and they're all schemes to try and get people to sucker and put their money into these random ones.
Yeah.
I would be very hesitant to go into not like the top 10 crypto coins.
Yeah.
You know, or even the top like 20 or something in there. You know, when you get out of that range, like there's a high risk reward there, I'm sure. But
So soon you will see a laughing stock coin, I think.
Yeah, we were talking about that. We're gonna
We're
start
gonna
it
have
off at $1 million, and
nice.
we're gonna start by owning 10 of the coins ourselves.
Yeah, and you will
Seems like a good
see
prospect.
you'll see endless promotion of it on the channel.
Yeah, that's how you really make money, guys. You come up with your own crypto coin and sell it to other people out there who will buy anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see where everything goes.
Yeah, it's yeah, like I started off with end of January and the beginning of February. I'm pretty happy with my swing trading, and I'm sure I'm gonna mess it all up at the end of February. But let's see. Yeah, at least it's a good start, I think.
Yeah, I figure at this point, no matter what, the goal will be to stay above the S&P. I mean,
Yeah,
historically, if you compound money, even like from my age into retirement, if we continue to do this, and I can just beat the S&P, I mean, it's just going to set yourself up to be financially secure for a long time. I mean, obviously, our goal is to crush it, but anything I'm doing that's above it. Now, don't. The other thing to remember too is like I'm up 5%. With swing trading, you're going to be up and down a few percent almost every week. It's just nature
yeah,
of how volatile the strategy is. But you can see on the 1 month, I'm up 16%. So usually when it's a good month or you get a few good trades, it really, really outweighs the downside. Um, and I think you and I are pretty conservative. I mean, our stop loss is at usually around 3%. And like you said, you can't always protect it perfectly, which is one of the issues of holding through earnings. Is the next day if you wake up and it's down 20%, 30% in off hours, not you can't do anything. It's not going to sell out even if you have a stop loss put in place. So
yeah,
it's just part of the risk that you take on inherently. So that's partly why you have to limit position size no matter what, in my opinion. But at the same
yeah.
time
That's where the
too,
slicing comes in.
right. And then at the same time too, though, to balance that out, we're shooting for 3-to-1 returns.
Yeah,
Or higher, and sometimes you get lucky, and sometimes you get something that's up, 40%,
yeah,
50% in a few days. So every one of those
and
quickly swings things in your favor.
yeah. This week, I on the third day when I was about to sell stuff, I also raised because I had over 10% gains already on the third day,
Mm-hmm.
So then I decided to raise my stop to protect the 10% gain. So I didn't want to lose any of that on the third day, I'm still learning and testing a bit on how to manage the selling on the third day.
Yeah, I like I had told you too. My thing with selling on the third day, I've been looking at the intraday chart and trying to time when it breaks down, obviously. And the one thing that I see so far that I um, like BBAI, this would be a good one to look at. Um, I would think the 50 isn't a bad one to use.
Yeah, okay.
Um, you could use VWAP, but you see VWAP, you got stopped out. It's going to depend on your day. Um, you could set a certain amount. I mean, you get out here, you still got a pretty good gain. This is still a 26%. That's almost where it ended for the day, is right here where it finally broke through
Yeah.
on the 50. So that's one way of trying to capture a bit more of the top. Um, it's tough to say.
I'm also thinking that what I'm doing now is not necessarily what I'm going to end up doing as long as I have a little bit of room to play with in terms of being profitable. I need to
Yeah.
work myself up to have some room to take maybe a little bit more risk, play around and break the rules a little bit more. Uh, um, and then maybe I will change the style a little bit. Now I'm very strict and keep things very tight.
Yeah, and I mean it's good, especially as you get started. You know, you were just trying to get on your feet going, and
Yeah,
you know, like I said, I made a lot of huge mistakes towards the end of the last year trying things, and
yeah,
there are mistakes in the fact that like I knew I was taking on something risky, and just trying to learn like, could this work out, or does this work out often enough that it's worth taking that risk on? Most of the time, it's not. Most of the time, anytime you do something like, you know, I tried increasing the stop loss a little bit, and really all that did was it drained your money even faster. You know, if it's going to break out, it's going to break out. Um,
you know,
Sometimes you get stopped out on something that works out, but I don't know. I find in general, if your timing's good, if you can work with your entrances, the chance of you getting stopped out on something that's really breaking out goes down pretty far.
yeah. I think, Dane, when we get rich from doing this, I will hire a person that will come in every 10 minutes and yell at me, "Don't do anything stupid."
I'm going to just write it on my forehead. Now, I've pretty much started putting notes in my phone. I have sticky notes around that just say, you know, um, excuse my French, but don't do anything fucking stupid, because basically there's so many times, like USEG is a great example this week, and you know, on this day, I saw it was up on this. I missed this first hour. I noticed it because I wasn't watching that close, and I got in, like I said, somewhere in here. And you know, it's one of those things where, like, you know, I knew what this chart had done. I'm looking back here, and I saw this candle. I see this candle. They look pretty damn alike. And then this started going up, and so did this one.
Yeah,
So in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, it might make another big move, like, you know, and it's the biggest moving stock of the day. Why not get in here? And probably dumb, because, you know, when I got in on this one, I got in on this candle. My risk was already capped here, so I didn't have to worry about it as it went up here. And, you know, getting in too late to one of these moves, it limits your upside no matter what. You know, and I should have thought about this. Like, this candle worked because there's no resistance before here.
yeah, true.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, this candle works because there's nothing in this region that's up there. This
Yeah,
candle fails because there's this right in front of
yeah,
it. So, like, you know, that's just something dumb that I should know. But, like, that fear of missing out gets to you. You start to see something moving, and you're like, oh, my God, I got to buy this one. And then I compounded the error like an idiot by doing it twice, because I was like, oh, I got stopped out immediately. Let's try again. You know, and it's good. It's good that it fails, because it reminds me in the future, don't be an idiot.
yeah,
You know, if it doesn't fit your normal rules, like, don't be chasing these things. There's so many other opportunities that you're going to find that are going to work out. You know, and instead of taking a 6% loss quickly on those two positions, a 6% in total, which is only, I don't know, it's like 1.5% or something like that for my, or no, it's only like 0.5% for my portfolio. So not a big deal, but still,
yeah,
it's 0.5%. I didn't need to lose just because I'm doing something that's totally not fitting my rules.
yeah.
So as
And
easy as it is for me to sit here and say to just follow the rules, even for me, it's still difficult sometimes.
yeah, and also in the heat of the moment when you are there, everything, you are watching a million things. You know, maybe maybe there's not things are not quiet in the room you are in. Just stuff like that. Everything affects you a bit, and it can trick you to not think clearly. Like and then afterwards, it's so easy to see what you should have done. You know.
Yeah, well, and the other thing too, I was just thinking about it, because you just put me back in Monday. Monday, like I said, I got screwed on Neptune because I got stopped out of that and took a loss. Two of my other ones had pulled back, so those went from large gains to, like, I lost almost all my gains on those ones. And during that morning, I think I went into one other thing and got stopped out. The whole market was pulling back. So just, I had like 5 or 6 things go wrong. So at that point in your mind, you're like, oh, I just want to win. I just want one
Yeah.
win for the day, just something to work. And then I see the stock that I just made a double on going up 30, 40%. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, here it is. Here's your opportunity to hop in. And no, it's not. This is another mistake to compound the day into even worse of a day. And then, like I said, on top of it, I did it twice. And somewhere in there where I'm losing the money and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, stop being an idiot. Like, but it's tough. It sounds so easy, but it's so easy to get caught up when things are moving and trying to make a rash decision. So yeah,
Really?
I literally need to have it on my wall, like printed. Like, do not follow your rules. It's just that simple. If it's not in your face, constantly trying to remind you, because so easily you're like, oh, well, if I just do this, it will work out, or it might work out.
Yeah.
It won't work out.
Another thing you can do to help you with this is to go to the Laughing Stock Discord and go to the Laughing Stock Wisdom tab, because we have a lot of wisdom words there. And guess what, Dane? One of them is don't be an idiot.
That's a strong phrase.
Yeah. So you have it all there in the Discord. So everyone needs to join us there,
Yeah, the Discord's where it's at. That's where we get real insight. But
nice.
yeah, so it's just one of those things that no matter what, I keep hoping going forward, because I already have said it that I'm not going to continue to make mistakes. And don't get me wrong, the Neptune one is a mistake, and just that I didn't pay attention. I didn't sell something when I was supposed to. That's just like an error, not really like a thought mistake. USEG was a thoughtful mistake that I made. I purposely ignored my rules. So those are the ones I really need to keep working on to avoid. And the worst thing is I had gone for over a month basically without breaking the rules. And I think you just get laxed and things are going well, and you start to kind of, it's just not as apparent because everything's been going fine. So it's like, oh yeah, what's the big issue with doing this? It's not that it's a big issue, but every time you do it, you're just setting yourself up to continue to make mistakes. Like, I can already tell the guys who are really successful at this have really solidified the fact that they never ever break their rules.
No.
And that's just the point you need to get to. And even me, I can sit here and say to you guys that I'm not going to break the rules. I probably will again, but I just need to keep reinforcing it to just never break your rules. Like I said, it's okay to bend on some strong stocks and stuff like that, and that becomes more of a nuance type thing. It's not the same thing though. Breaking the rules is doing something that just totally doesn't match your setup. It doesn't match your style. It's doing something because you're getting greedy essentially, and you think you know something. So.
Yeah, no, but it is hard though. It's not easy, but it's something that can be worked on, and something that is, I guess, fairly easy to work on, at least to improve it.
Yeah. So I guess that's where I stand after this week. Is overall I should be happy. I'm up 2% for the week, which, like I've already said, 2% a week is great, because 2% a week leads to 100% returns. Actually, 2% would lead to more than 100% returns because of my time period. So,
which would be amazing.
I mean, you think about it. Most people are shooting for 10% a year on average. So 2% a week's still.
I read somewhere when I started out, like the average fund, you can expect 5 to 8% in a year.
Yeah. I mean, people are happy to invest in bonds that give you 4%.
Yeah.
I'm shooting for 2% a week. So we'll see. The big question I have kind of going forward now is I just am curious to see where the markets go. I hope the world continues to stabilize. I know it's like, it's really tough to tell. It's really tough to tell. It sounds like they're I don't know. I get, it sounded like at first with the whole hostage thing, kind of like, I was happy to see some of the hostages get returned to Israel from Gaza, and hoping that starts to wind down. And then, Trump says he wants to put casinos on the river or on the water there. And it's like, I don't know what's going to happen. I have no idea. So, I just hope, as always, I think we should be fighting for peace And I'm happy with economic competition. Because I think that leads to better status of life for everybody. Essentially. But we'll just have to see. The market will tell us where we're going to land here.
Yeah.
Good news. Actually, I was just looking up here. I like to keep this one up here. This is my highest percentage gain. So at my high, like best thing ever, and this was at USEG at its very peak. If I would have sold at the very peak, was 32%. So I'm only 3% off from my all-time high.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And
assuming Monday doesn't crash and these 5 names all stop me out.
Yeah.
But which could happen.
Which could happen.
Oh well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, the one thing I can say about this style is it's less time intensive. I feel like at this point, like I have more time again.
I agree. Which is, yeah, I 100% agree. And most of the days I'm doing this, I'm logging off after like maybe, what is it, like 1.5 to 2 hours.
Yeah.
And that's not because necessarily I want to, but because I have to. But in my experience so far, that's enough for at least finding something.
Yeah, to be honest, a lot of the big names that move are going to occur in the first hour. Don't get me wrong, there's plenty of exceptions to that rule. But
Yeah.
I would say 50% of them are. So,
and you just need to find a few,
Yeah.
So no, I really like it. It has taken a lot of time to learn everything and to understand everything, and I'm far from done. But the actual style, sitting down, doing the job when the market opens, I love it so far.
Yeah. But it's like actually like some of the times I sit down and with value investing, the problem is like there's so much to read. There was so much homework to do constantly, and
Constant reading.
And it was just very time consuming. Like I could spend hours every day, 3 to 4 hours a day, just reading for stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was like you came to no conclusion. So it just was like a lot of work for very little output essentially. So this one. I like it just because it really helps you to hone in on just a few names. And it's kind of funny now because, like I said, USEG might be my next value play. And that's something I found from doing this style. So we'll see. I don't know. I'm still not 100% sure if I'm going to take USEG or not. But it's in my radar. And I figure if I do take one thing, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think I have anything else to add. You got anything else?
No, I think we have summed up the week pretty good in terms of what we saw and what we did. So no, I'm happy.
Yeah, don't break the rules.
Don't break the rules, and
break 'em.
take BBAI when you have the chance.
I can't believe you almost bought an end of day on that first cheap move.
Yeah.
That would have been such a great play. Man, you would have had 2 back-to-back doubles.
Yeah, but you don't need to remind me, Dane.
I know. I'm sorry, man. I'm just but I'm more saying like it was a good call.
Yeah, no, I know.
It's about recognition too. Just as important to recognize it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just joking, but it is like I said when we spoke about it. Like I'm finding some comfort in my thinking in that time period, and that I was actually I was close.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter.
I didn't realize it had the news catalyst too
it helps
until it was too late. Afterwards, when I saw it keep going up, I was like, "What is going on with this?" And then I saw that it had the news, and I was like, "Oh God!" I was like, "That was such a buy."
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I saw after also like Twitter, and it was flooded with BBAI after when it started to move. So, oh well. that it's like we talk about, like we will find more of those.
Yeah, I mean, since I've been doing it, I think there's usually, it seems like of the bigger movers, even in the sideways type markets, which I've just argued since I've been doing this, which has been around like November to now. I mean, the markets have essentially moved sideways. You know, from this
Yeah,
period to now, we were at 6017 there. We're at 6025. Yes, it's moved
yeah,
up and down, but it's been a sideways market from November to February. And somewhere
yeah,
towards late October is when I really started to solidify my rules here.
yeah,
And I kind of got lucky because this November jump there is where I kind of I made up for a lot of the really dumb mistakes I had made in this period, which this
yeah,
period was all super bullish. I mean, you know, even October and through September. September is when I was starting to like look into swing trading or somewhere in there. And it wasn't until October I started being more successful and starting to
yeah.
figure out what I was doing right and wrong. Um, you know, I'm up almost 30% in that time period, which is more than the S&P for the entire last year and in a month here.
I
So
keep I keep saying it every time I see your performance, that okay, we aim for higher and stuff like that, you know, but I'm very impressed. I'm very encouraged by it, and I'm like, this works. It does work. It's hard, but if you sit down, it does work if you do it right.
yeah, it just takes wanting to do it really.
Yeah, yeah,
But like I said, that's the crazy thing to me is, don't get me wrong, I did a lot of reading, I did a lot of research, I did spend hours and hours going over charts and tracking my trades and going through all that. But at this
yeah,
point now that I've kind of solidified it and I start to get the idea where I can look at a chart and I can kind of tell pretty quickly, you know, like if I like it or not, which I didn't have that ability even a few months ago.
yeah,
Um, it's a lot easier. Like I just don't need to
yeah,
spend nearly as much time doing this strategy. I see why like Kalamaji, they almost say it's like a lazy style because if you're day trading, and I think that's what turned me off from trading initially is when I thought of trading, I always thought of day trading, and then it was just like you sitting there watching bars go up and down all day, and
yeah.
I would never want to do that. That sounds terrible.
It,
Maybe
that
that's
sounds,
the kind of thing that excites you and enjoys you, and you enjoy it, like just which is fine. But that's not me. If I want to go
same.
do that, I'll go watch the horse races or something, you know.
Yeah,
But
it would be way too stressful for me.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't have that. And right now, like USEG, we technically day traded it, but it was exciting because we knew our risk was already locked in. We couldn't lose money on that trade, and from that
Yeah,
point, it was just going up.
yeah,
You know, and I think about, you know, we all started this because of GME. Imagine we were
yeah,
swing trading when GME happened. I mean,
yeah. Pull up the chart.
what was going on in that period? Even in May,
Yeah,
when it gets into this period, we would have caught this breakout, and sure, I would have sold probably somewhere on this day here, but still exciting. I mean, you know, it doesn't matter.
yeah,
And on this one, on this day where it did this large crazy move here, I probably would have set my stop loss in there somewhere and locked it in
yeah.
because it's not often that you see something going quite so wild. And you got RK coming back.
But
That was a crazy time.
that was a crazy time for sure.
But once
Even
again,
for BNet.
you know, you could have swing traded this here. This would have seemed like a pretty obvious one in my opinion, somewhere right in here. And this would have been your
But
day three.
13th of January 2021. Look at that candle.
Hold on, I gotta predefine this.
Oh, 2021.
Oh, was it 2021?
Yeah.
Why does this look wrong to me? I gotta open this up then. Let me go 01. No, 01. Come on. To 31.
There you
Wow.
go, maybe. If you take it there.
Hold on. I just want to zoom out even more.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, this would have been, and the crazy thing is too. So this is the first breakout. So
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know if I would have gotten in here, because it's tough too without zooming back even further, like going to 2020 and doing, like let's say 10.
there you
So
have it.
I don't know if I would have considered at the time this being a breakout, and this would have seemed like an obvious breakout again. Like this
Yeah,
might have been the first move up because it's hard because this is so scale. Like this whole section here, this big scaling here.
yeah,
This is tough to take out of the equation. So
yeah,
this here might have seemed like a very clear breakout. So this would have been breakout one, which would have been from $5 to 10. So it would have been a quick double. And the
yeah,
next breakout would have been 10 to ending the day at 40. And
yeah,
sure, you would have, we would have probably missed some of this craziness here. But still, I mean, that's a double and then a triple in like a week period. So if you
yeah,
think what that would do for your portfolio, I mean, some serious returns in a really small amount of time.
yeah. And those setups, you would notice them with the scans and everything that we have now. You would notice them.
They would be
Yeah,
front and center to everything. And to be honest, um, during that time, it might have bent the rules in terms of like, everyone was in the GameStop momentum type phase. So who
yeah,
knows? I might have held for 5 days or something like that. I might have let that one run because you have to remember in those type of markets that like this was a super bullish time period. So it's not like today where I'm holding for 3 days most of the time because that's on the more safe conservative side as the markets have slowed down. In a really bullish market, I'm probably going to hold for 5 days because stocks are going to run up for 5 days in a row constantly.
yeah,
You're going to make more money in that time period because you can hold for 5 days and it's going to keep moving for 5 days. Right now it's 3, but who knows? After COVID, I bet you almost every name was moving up. Because after everything crashed in March of that year, everything came back up for the rest of the year.
yeah.
I mean, right there, that year, I can't even imagine if you were swing trading during that year, what
You,
your returns would have been.
I looked on a episode on Kulamagi's other YouTube channel called Stockholm, and they talked about that period like the rest of everyone who was participating. I think that that's the best period they've had
Yeah,
by
because I mean,
far.
there's just constant multi-baggers everywhere.
Yeah, yeah,
And we're talking in days. It would
yeah,
have been a wild period to swing trade for sure.
yeah. Just hypothetically, in those periods, would you mess around with your position sizing on each trade?
I may bring it down just because if there's that many names moving, you can take some of the risk off.
Yeah,
Because that's the thing now. Like now, it's tough to find. Like in any given day, don't get me wrong, you could probably find 3 or 4 stocks that'll work out for a swing trade, but you have to hit all of them. It's not as easy as that sounds. But in a
yeah,
period like that, where there could be 10 names on any given day, 15 names, yeah, you could move your position down to 5%, and you would take on a lot less risk. And if all of them were working out, it's still you're going to gain the same amount from them all moving upwards. But each one, in terms of you getting stopped out on, the chances are even lower. So it's less risk that you take on. So that's why I'm saying, like, you have to understand that as the markets are really bullish, you would want to adjust the rules to that, as well as when the markets become really bearish, you want to adjust your rules. At least that's what I'm
yeah,
going to do. But I
yeah.
don't think we're going to run into a bullish period like this for a while.
No,
You know.
and yeah, those are very. I don't think you will. Well, everything with in terms of GME and the period that happened in and everything like that, probably never gonna happen. Never say never, but it's hard for it to happen again. I think.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any short interest get up to those levels again ever since. I think.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But all right, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your
Yeah.
weekend. Johnny, enjoy yours.
Yeah. You too.
We're supposed to get a bunch of snow tonight, so we'll see. Hopefully, I don't get
Oh
buried
no.
in here.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
See you then.
Um, don't don't break your rules. Don't be an idiot.
Don't break the rules.
We'll end on that.
Yeah.